The alarm started screaming at 2:47 a.m., not the gentle beep of a smoke detector or the steady pulse of a security system. This was the bone-chilling wail that meant someone was about to die in my steel plant. I grabbed my phone off the nightstand. 7 missed calls from the night shift supervisor. My stomach dropped as I listened to the first voicemail. "Alan, we need you here now. Chemical spill in Zone 3. Evacuation in progress. Nobody knows the emergency protocols. My name is Alan Morrison. I'm 55 years old. Yesterday morning, my boss fired me after 15 years of building the safest, most efficient steel manufacturing operation in the Midwest. Tonight, people's lives were on the line because that same boss thought my expertise could be replaced with a computer program. I threw on clothes and drove to Great Lakes Steel Manufacturing, the place that had been my second home for a decade and a half. The parking lot looked like a disaster zone. Fire trucks, ambulances, guys in hazmat suits, workers standing around in the cold, some still in their safety gear, others just in coveralls. Danny Walsh spotted me first. "Night shift operator, good man, father of 3. He ran over before I'd even gotten out of my truck. Alan, thank God you're here. We had a containment breach in the chemical storage area. Nobody knows which protocols to follow. Ryan's been on the phone for 2 hours trying to find someone who understands your emergency procedures. Ryan Dixon, 29 years old, MBA from Wharton, and as of yesterday morning, my replacement's boss. The kid who'd smiled while telling me my 15 years of experience was legacy thinking that needed modernizing." "Where's the breach?" I asked. "Zone 3, northeast corner. Some kind of acid leak. The automated safety system went haywire. Started mixing containment chemicals that aren't supposed to touch each other." I knew exactly what had happened. 3 years ago, I'd designed a manual override for situations like this. The automated system was sophisticated, but it couldn't account for every variable. You needed someone who understood chemistry, metallurgy, and how these systems actually worked under pressure. "Anyone hurt?" "Not yet, but they evacuated the whole East Wing. That's 40 guys standing out here instead of running production." I looked toward the plant. Every light was on. Emergency vehicles blocking the main entrance. This was what happened when you replaced institutional knowledge with algorithms. Let me back up. Yesterday morning, Ryan Dixon called me into his office with that same MBA smile he wore when explaining why every problem had a software solution. "We're restructuring the manufacturing operations," he said, like he was discussing the weather. "Found someone who can modernize our processes for 65% of your current compensation. Industry 4.0, digital transformation. You understand." I understood, all right. Ryan had been at Great Lakes Steel for 18 months, transferred from the consulting division with big ideas about automation and efficiency. He'd never worked a day on a production floor, never seen what happens when complex systems fail, never had to make life-or-death decisions while machinery screamed around him. But he had charts. Beautiful PowerPoint presentations about optimization and cost reduction. Spreadsheets that made my $115,000 salary look like wasted money. Numbers that proved his outsourcing plan would save the company hundreds of thousands annually. What his spreadsheets didn't capture was 15 years of knowledge about how this specific facility worked, which equipment had quirks that required human judgment, which safety protocols couldn't be automated because real emergencies don't follow programmed scenarios. I'd started at Great Lakes when I was 40, fresh out of 8 years in the Navy. Served on nuclear submarines where attention to detail meant the difference between completing the mission and becoming a headline. When I got out, I wanted to use that precision in civilian manufacturing. The plant was a disaster when I arrived. Equipment breaking down constantly. No systematic maintenance. Safety incidents every month. The previous operations manager had quit after 10 months. Said the job was impossible. It wasn't impossible. It just required someone willing to learn every system, understand every process, build relationships with every supplier and worker. I spent my first year working 12-hour days, studying equipment manuals, talking to the guys who'd been running these machines for decades. Slowly things improved. Maintenance schedules that actually prevented breakdowns, quality protocols that eliminated defects, safety systems that protected workers without slowing production, training programs that turned good workers into great ones. By year 3, we were running the most efficient steel operation in the region. Safety incidents down 90%. Production up 35%. Quality ratings consistently above 99%. Suppliers used us as their reference facility. Frank Miller was my boss back then. Former Army, understood what it meant to build something that lasts. Frank used to say, I made complex manufacturing look simple, but that was the point. Real expertise makes difficult things appear effortless. Then Frank retired, and corporate brought in Ryan. Young guy with fresh ideas about the future of manufacturing. He never asked how our systems worked, never wanted to understand why certain processes existed. He just saw numbers on a spreadsheet that could be optimized. We've already identified your replacement, Ryan continued yesterday morning. Starts Monday. You have until end of day to document your processes and transition responsibilities. Transition to who? Today's Thursday. You said he starts Monday. Create a comprehensive knowledge transfer document. Shouldn't take long since you've always emphasized how systematic everything is. I'd never said that. He'd said that in presentations where he took credit for results I'd spent years building. But arguing wouldn't change anything. Ryan had already decided, probably weeks ago. Fine, I said. His smile flickered. He probably expected me to beg, maybe argue about my value to the company. I didn't give him that satisfaction. I walked back to my office and started typing. Equipment specifications, maintenance schedules, supplier contacts, safety protocols, emergency procedures. Page after page of information that couldn't be learned from a manual. 6 hours later, I had 12 pages that barely scratched the surface. Real operational knowledge isn't something you document in an afternoon. It's built through experience, refined through mistakes, validated through crisis. Now, standing in the parking lot at 3 a.m., watching emergency crews deal with a chemical spill that could have been prevented, I understood the real cost of Ryan's optimization. What do you need me to do? I asked Danny. Danny looked relieved just to see me. Ryan's inside with the fire chief. They can't figure out how to neutralize the spill without making it worse. The automated system keeps trying to deploy the wrong containment foam. I knew that system. I'd helped design the override protocols after a smaller incident 3 years ago. The computer was programmed for standard chemical spills, but this wasn't standard. When different acids mixed, you needed specific neutralization sequences that couldn't be automated. Take me to Ryan, I said. We walked past the emergency vehicles toward the main entrance. Guys from my old crew nodded as I passed. These were men I'd worked alongside for years, trained in safety protocols, promoted based on skill rather than politics. They looked worried, and not just about the spill. Inside, the administrative offices were chaos. Ryan stood near a computer terminal, phone pressed to his ear, sweat visible on his forehead despite the cool air. The fire chief, a guy named Captain Rodriguez I'd worked with on emergency planning, saw me first. Alan, thank Christ. This kid's been reading from computer manuals for 2 hours. We need someone who actually knows this facility. Ryan looked up, saw me, and his face went through several expressions. Relief, embarrassment, and something that might have been anger. He ended his phone call and walked over. Alan, I didn't expect... Thank you for coming. Danny called me. What's the situation? Ryan gestured toward a computer screen showing facility schematics. Chemical containment breach in storage area 7. The automated safety system deployed foam sequence C12, but it's not working. Might be making things worse. I looked at the screen and immediately saw the problem. You've got sulfuric acid mixing with metalwork cleaning solution. Foam C12 is for oil spills. You're basically creating a more corrosive compound. The manual covers standard scenarios. This isn't standard. I turned to Captain Rodriguez. Cowbay. Much time before this eats through the secondary containment, maybe 90 minutes if it keeps spreading at this rate. Can I access the override system? Ryan hesitated. Your access codes were deactivated yesterday. Of course they were. I looked at Captain Rodriguez. Can you authorize emergency access? Already tried. Need someone with current administrative privileges. Ryan stood there for a moment, clearly wrestling with something. His precious automation system was failing, people were in danger, and the only solution required trusting the guy he'd fired 18 hours earlier. Give him access, he finally said to the IT technician standing nearby. 5 minutes later, I was logged into the emergency override system. The screen showed exactly what I'd expected. The automated sequence had misidentified the spill type and deployed the wrong neutralization protocol. I pulled up the manual override controls I'd helped design and started inputting the correct sequence. What are you doing? Ryan asked, looking over my shoulder. Shutting down the foam system and deploying neutralization powder instead. Then we reverse the ventilation flow to contain the gas buildup. But the computer says the computer's wrong. It doesn't know that Storage Area 7 has a cross-contamination risk from the adjacent metal prep station. Human judgment. I executed the sequence. Within 10 minutes, the alarm stopped. The chemical reaction began stabilizing. Captain Rodriguez got confirmation from his hazmat team that the situation was under control. "Crisis averted," he said, walking over to shake my hand. "Same as always, Alan. You made that look easy." There was that word again. Easy. It wasn't easy. It was 15 years of experience, training, and understanding how complex systems actually work when everything goes wrong. Ryan stood nearby, watching workers return to their stations. Production could resume within an hour instead of being shut down for days. I could see him calculating the cost savings, probably hundreds of thousands of dollars in avoided losses. "Alan," he said quietly, "can we talk? Privately?" We walked to an empty conference room. Ryan closed the door and sat down across from me. For the first time since I'd known him, he looked uncertain. "That situation tonight, I couldn't handle it. The automated systems I've been implementing, they don't account for scenarios like this. No, they don't. That's why you need experienced people who understand the exceptions. I made a mistake yesterday. Firing you was... I didn't realize what you actually do here." I said nothing. Let him work through it. The board is asking questions about operational readiness after tonight's incident. If there had been injuries or environmental damage... He paused. "I need you to come back. What happened to your outsourcing plan?" "It's on hold. Look, this was a procedural error in judgment. We can fix this. Compensation adjustment, additional responsibilities. You oversee the automation integration." He was offering me my old job back with a raise to help implement the systems designed to replace me. The irony wasn't lost on either of us. "I'll think about it," I said. His relief was visible. "Thank you. When can you give me an answer? I'll let you know." I left him there and walked back through the plant. Production was returning to normal. Workers were back at their stations, running the systems I'd spent years optimizing. Everything looked the same as yesterday, except I didn't work here anymore. Danny caught up with me near the parking lot. "You saved our asses tonight." Ryan looked like he was about to piss himself when that alarm started going off. "Just doing what needed to be done." "You coming back?" "I don't know yet." I drove home as the sun started rising. Linda was in the kitchen making coffee, still in her nursing scrubs from her night shift at the hospital. She looked up when I walked in, covered in chemical residue and factory dust. "Emergency call from the plant," I said. "Chemical spill. They needed someone who knew the safety protocols." "At the place that fired you yesterday?" "Yeah." She handed me a cup of coffee. "How'd that go?" "They offered me my job back." Linda studied my face. After 30 years of marriage, she could read me pretty well. "But you don't want it." "I don't know what I want. Part of me feels vindicated. They realized they needed me after all, but another part of me thinks about working for someone who considered me disposable until he needed me." "What did you tell them?" "That I'd think about it." Our daughter Sarah came downstairs, getting ready for her shift at the hospital where she worked as a nurse. 28 years old, independent, but still living at home while paying off nursing school loans. "Dad, what happened? You look like you've been in a war zone." "Your father just saved his old company from a major disaster," Linda said. "The same company that fired him yesterday." Sarah looked at me with that expression she'd had since childhood when something didn't make sense. "They fired you and then called you back when things went wrong?" "Pretty much. That's messed up." My son Jordan walked in from the garage, wiping grease off his hands. 26 years old, working as a mechanic while saving money to open his own shop. He'd inherited my practical streak and my stubborn independence. "So what are you gonna do?" he asked. Good question. I spent the weekend thinking about Ryan's offer. Saturday morning, I was in the garage working on my old pickup when my phone rang. Colonel Patricia Stone's name on the screen. Patricia ran American Defense Contractors, a medium-sized company that manufactured components for military equipment. We'd met at a veterans networking event 2 years ago, stayed in touch. Former Army logistics officer who understood what it meant to build operations that actually worked. Alan heard through the grapevine you might be looking for a change of scenery. Word travels fast in manufacturing circles. Maybe. Depends on what kind of change. We're expanding our operation. Need someone to oversee manufacturing for a new defense contract. Interested in hearing about it? I'm listening. Can you meet for coffee Monday afternoon? I'll explain the opportunity. I agreed to meet her at 3 p.m. at a place near the industrial district. Same time I used to have lunch meetings with Frank Miller before he retired. Different world now. Monday morning, Ryan called me at 7 a.m. Alan, I need an answer about returning. The board meeting is Wednesday. I need to tell them our operational readiness status. I said I'd think about it. How long do you need? We're running production with skeleton crew supervision, another incident like Friday night, and we're looking at regulatory review, possible shutdowns. The desperation in his voice was obvious. His automation systems could handle routine operations, but they couldn't replace human judgment in crisis situations. And in manufacturing, crisis situations happened regularly. I'll let you know by end of day, I said. Thank you. And Alan, name your salary, whatever it takes. After he hung up, I sat in my kitchen drinking coffee and thinking about choices. Going back to Great Lakes meant financial security, familiar work, and the satisfaction of proving my worth. But it also meant working for someone who'd thrown me away the moment he thought I was unnecessary. Linda came downstairs, getting ready for her day shift. Ryan again? Yeah. Wants an answer today. What's your gut telling you? That I don't want to work for someone who only values me when he's scared. She nodded. Trust your gut. We'll figure out the money. At 3 p.m., I met Patricia at the coffee shop. She was already there, reviewing documents on her tablet. Still looked like military, even in civilian clothes. Straight posture, direct eye contact, no wasted words. Alan, good to see you. Thanks for coming. Thanks for thinking of me. Straight to business. We landed a 3-year contract manufacturing precision components for Navy submarines. $85 million total value. Need someone to build the production operation from scratch. My kind of project. What's the timeline? 6 months to full production capability. We have the facility, some equipment, but need the expertise to make it work. The Navy doesn't accept excuses. Either we deliver quality parts on schedule, or they cancel the contract and blacklist us. What kind of components? Pressure vessel assemblies, navigation equipment housings, precision tolerances, zero defect requirements, stuff that has to work perfectly 400 feet underwater. I knew that world. Naval nuclear systems where mistakes got people killed. What's the position? Senior Director of Manufacturing Operations. You'd have complete authority to hire staff, design processes, select suppliers. Build it however you think best. Salary range? $140,000 base, plus profit sharing. Full benefits, 2 weeks vacation to start. That was $25,000 more than Great Lakes had been paying me. Not just a raise, but a significant step up in responsibility and respect. Why me? I asked. Because you understand what zero defects actually means. Most manufacturing managers think quality control means catching mistakes. Military manufacturing means preventing them. I need someone who's been there. She was right. Submarine components couldn't be recalled if they failed. They had to work perfectly the first time, every time, for years underwater. That kind of reliability required a different mindset. When do you need an answer? Take your time. This isn't a decision to rush. I drove home thinking about submarine duty. The absolute precision required, the knowledge that other people's lives depended on your work being perfect. Manufacturing for civilian markets was different. Mistakes were costly but rarely fatal. Defense work brought back that sense of mission I'd missed since leaving the Navy. At 6 p.m., Ryan called again. Alan, do you have an answer for me? Yeah, I do. Great. When can you start back? I'm not coming back, Ryan. Silence. Then, what do you mean? I mean, I'm not interested in working for someone who thought I was disposable until he needed me. Alan, wait, we can discuss this. More money, better title, whatever you want. It's not about money. It's about respect. You spent 18 months taking credit for systems I built, then fired me the moment you thought you could save some budget. Now you want me back because your automation failed. I made a mistake. I admit that. But we can fix this. You can't fix 18 months of treating me like I didn't matter. Find someone else. There is no one else. You know our systems better than anyone. Then you should have thought about that before you fired me. I hung up on him. For the first time in days, I felt clear about something. That evening, Linda found me in the garage, organizing tools, staying busy, while my mind processed everything. "You turned him down?" she asked. "Yeah. How do you feel?" "Relieved. And terrified. But mostly relieved." "What about money? The mortgage, kids' expenses?" "I might have something else lined up." "Defense contractor? Good opportunity." She smiled. "Military work again?" "Maybe. Would that bother you?" "Are you kidding? You've been happiest when you're working on something that matters, something bigger than quarterly profit margins." Sarah came home from her evening shift, found us in the garage. "Dad, heard you told your old boss to pound sand." "Where'd you hear that?" "Jordan. He's proud of you, says it's about time you stood up for yourself." "What do you think?" "I think you did the right thing. That place never appreciated you anyway." Over the next week, Ryan called me 12 times. I answered twice just to hear how desperate he was getting. The automated systems kept failing in small but costly ways. Production delays, quality issues, supplier problems that required human judgment to resolve. By Thursday, he was offering me $130,000 and a promotion to assistant plant manager. By the following Monday, it was $135,000 and my choice of title. Each call made me more certain I'd made the right decision. Patricia called Wednesday evening. "Have you decided about our opportunity?" "Yes, I'm interested." "When do we start?" "Excellent. How about Monday? I'll have the paperwork ready." My first day at American Defense Contractors felt different from minute one. Patricia met me in the lobby personally, walked me through every department, introduced me to every team member. No rushed orientation, no dumping me at a desk with a stack of manuals. "What do you need to be successful here?" she asked. "Time," I said. "Time to understand your products, your processes, your specific requirements. Building defense manufacturing isn't something you rush." "I know," Patricia said. "That's exactly why we hired you. We need someone who understands this takes real expertise." The operation was manageable chaos when I started. Equipment scattered across inadequate floor space, no systematic quality protocols, suppliers confused about military specifications. I'd seen this before. I knew how to fix it. I spent my first month learning every component we manufactured, every supplier relationship, every regulatory requirement. Taking notes, asking questions, building mental maps of how everything connected. Patricia checked in weekly, not micromanaging, just available. "How's it going? What obstacles can I remove? What resources do you need?" That's what good leadership looked like. Someone who understood that helping employees succeed was how companies succeeded. Meanwhile, stories filtered back from Great Lakes Steel through industry contacts. Ryan was personally handling all manufacturing crises now. No backup, no experienced support staff. Every equipment failure, every quality issue, every supplier problem fell directly on him. And there were plenty of problems. Tim Rodriguez called me in my second week. I'd worked with him for 8 years at Great Lakes. He supplied specialized steel components, precision stuff that required careful handling. "Your old company keeps messing up orders," he said. "Wrong specifications, missed deadlines. I've tried working with their new management, but it's not the same. Any chance your new company needs steel components?" I talked to Patricia. She was very interested. We worked out an initial contract. Tim shifted a significant portion of his business to us. Then Mark Sullivan called. He'd provided equipment maintenance services to Great Lakes for 10 years. Same story, same frustration, same interest in working with a company that understood operational excellence. Within 6 months, we'd acquired contracts with 4 major suppliers who'd previously worked exclusively with Great Lakes. Not because I recruited them, but because they valued reliable partnerships, and those partnerships had been with me personally, not with my former company. Patricia was impressed. "You've brought in $8 million worth of new supplier relationships," she said. "That's incredible business development." "I wasn't trying to steal anything," I said. "They called me." "I know. That's what makes it so valuable. These aren't cold sales calls. These are established relationships choosing to follow you. That's the kind of reputation you can't manufacture." Frank Miller called me around that time, my old boss from Great Lakes, the one who'd retired and been replaced by Ryan. "Heard you're acquiring our suppliers," he said. But he was laughing. "I'm not acquiring anyone. They're making business decisions, just like Ryan did when he fired me. Fair point. How's the defense work treating you? Much better than I expected. Good. You deserved better than what happened. Sometimes the worst thing that happens pushes us towards something we never would have considered. He wasn't wrong. I'd been comfortable at Great Lakes, maybe too comfortable. Not happy, not challenged, just familiar. I probably would have stayed another 15 years building systems for people who didn't appreciate them. Getting fired had freed me to find work that actually mattered. My family noticed the difference immediately. Not just the better salary, though the extra $25,000 helped significantly with household expenses and Jordan's business plans, but my attitude, my energy level. You seem like yourself again, Linda said one evening, like you're working on something important instead of just putting in time. She was right. Defense manufacturing brought back that sense of mission I'd felt in the Navy. These components weren't just products, they were equipment that kept sailors alive underwater. The precision mattered, the quality standards made sense. About 8 months after I started, Patricia called me into her office. We're expanding. The Navy contract is ahead of schedule, under budget, exceeding quality targets. They want to discuss additional work. I want you to oversee manufacturing for both our existing facility and a new operation we're opening in Indiana. It was a promotion, more responsibility, more recognition, more opportunity to build something meaningful. I'm interested, I said. You don't want to think about it? I've been thinking about it since I walked in here. This is exactly the kind of work I want to do. Building the Indiana facility was deeply satisfying, creating production systems from nothing, knowing they would work because I understood what made manufacturing actually function. I hired an assistant, Steve Cooper, 28 years old, recent engineering graduate who asked thoughtful questions and wanted to understand not just what to do, but why. Training Steve reminded me of learning manufacturing myself 15 years earlier. Showing him how precision components move through production systems, why certain processes required human oversight, how to anticipate problems before they became crises. He absorbed everything, made mistakes, learned from them. Within 8 months, he was handling daily operations while I focused on strategic planning. That's what succession should look like. Not firing someone and hoping automation fills the gap, but deliberately building knowledge, transferring expertise. About a year after my firing, Danny Walsh called me, the night shift operator from Great Lakes who'd been there during the chemical spill crisis. Alan, I'm calling because I'm leaving Great Lakes next month. Found a position with a company that actually values experience. Wanted to thank you before I go. Thank me for what? You probably don't remember, but 4 years ago, I made a serious mistake. Damaged expensive equipment, cost thousands in repairs. I thought I'd be fired. You found me on the production floor completely panicking. You said mistakes happen, let's fix it. You stayed after your shift helping me repair the damage, never told management it was my fault. I remembered vaguely. It had seemed like the right thing to do. Danny was a good worker. One mistake didn't define him. When you got fired, it sent a message to all of us, Danny continued. If they could throw away someone like you, nobody was safe. I wanted you to know that people noticed what kind of leader you were, and a lot of us have moved on because of it. After Danny hung up, I sat thinking about leadership. I'd never considered myself a leader, just someone who did the work and helped when people needed help. But maybe that was leadership. Not titles or authority, just consistency, integrity, treating people like they mattered. That evening, Linda was setting the table for dinner. Sarah and Jordan were both home, which was rare with their work schedules. Linda had made pot roast, my favorite meal. What's the occasion? I asked. 1 year since you got fired, Sarah said. We wanted to celebrate. Celebrate getting fired? Celebrate you standing up for yourself, Jordan said, and finding something better. Linda raised her glass. To my husband, who finally learned he's worth more than he was settling for. We clinked glasses around our kitchen table. Same house, same family, but everything felt different, better. I'd spent 15 years building systems for people who took them for granted. Now I was building something that mattered, for people who understood its value. Sometimes, the worst thing that happens to you turns out to be exactly what you needed. Real expertise isn't something you can automate or outsource. It's built through years of making decisions when everything goes wrong, and no computer program can replace that human judgment. The younger generation thinks everything can be solved with software, but manufacturing is about understanding machines, materials, and people, and that understanding only comes from experience.